You want to know what really makes them panic? It's not when you blow up their phone. It's not when you write some poetic paragraph about missing the old us. And it damn sure isn't when you beg for another chance. No. The moment they really start worrying is when you stop performing, when you stop chasing, when you go quiet, dead silent. Because silence? That's not weakness. Silence is strategy. Let me ask you something, and don't lie to yourself. Why do they still check your stories after they moved on? Why do they ask your friends what you're up to, while pretending you don't exist? Why do they try so hard to look unbothered, yet keep one eye always glued to your life? Because deep down, they're hoping you're still stuck, still wounded, still waiting, still orbiting around the fantasy they walked away from. But when you're not, when you disappear without a single explanation, when you rebuild without broadcasting it, that's when their stomach drops. That's when the panic creeps in. That's when they start worrying about you. Because nothing haunts someone more than the idea that the person they once had is no longer reachable, no longer impressed, no longer the same. This isn't just about breakups. It's bigger than that. This is about value. This is about psychology. This is about what happens when someone realizes they no longer have power over you. You want to make someone worry? Stop explaining yourself. Start evolving. You don't win by reacting. You win by rising. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the key. You don't make them worry by proving your worth. You make them worry by embodying it, so completely, so unapologetically, that the thought of losing access to you hurts. They'll wonder, why is he so quiet? Why hasn't he reached out? Is he seeing someone else? And that mental spiral, that's your leverage. Not games, not manipulation, just evolution, done in silence. You want the truth? Most people don't fear losing you. They fear you finally realizing what you deserve and never looking back. You want to know how to flip the script? This video's going to break it down step by step. How to make someone question everything they took for granted without saying a single word. But I'll be real with you. This message isn't for the emotionally lazy. It's not for the ones who want overnight results. This is for the men ready to build quiet power, the kind that speaks without speaking, the kind that changes everything without chasing anyone. So here's the promise. By the end of this video, you'll learn how to turn your silence into strength, how to become unforgettable, not because you're loud, but because you're unshakable, how to make someone worry, not through revenge, but through reinvention. They left because they thought you'd crumble. Let's show them what happens when you conquer instead. Before we dive in, do this one thing: hit that like button. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs this mindset shift. And if you truly want to help us keep building this message, join the channel membership. Support the movement. Fuel the mission. And right now, I want you to drop this in the comments as a declaration. I'm the peace they can't reach. Type it like you mean it. Type it because you're done chasing and ready to become the one they can't stop thinking about. Let's go deeper. Because silence isn't just golden. It's the beginning of your dominance. Key point 1. The power of silence. It's not what you think. Here's the thing that most people miss when they're caught in the emotional aftermath of a breakup. They think silence is weakness. They think it's the sign of someone who's given up, who's emotionally defeated. But silence, that's your weapon. That's where your power lies. And when you wield it correctly, it sends a message louder than any text, call, or argument ever could. Think about it. The moment you stop reacting, stop reaching out, stop chasing, you stop being predictable, you stop being easy to read. And that's when everything changes. Your ex expects you to come running back when things fall apart. They're waiting for that moment when you'll break down, beg, and beg some more, proving you're still clinging to the past. But when you disappear instead, that's when they're left hanging, questioning everything they thought they knew about you. That's when they start wondering, where's he gone? Why isn't he coming after me? What's changed? This is where the psychology kicks in. People, especially those with avoidant tendencies, thrive on control. They want to know they can leave and you'll always be there. But when you stop being available, stop needing them to validate your worth, it throws them into a spiral. Now, this isn't about being cold or distant just for the sake of it. It's about claiming your space. It's about showing that you can thrive without their approval. And the truth is, when you're not around to chase, they're left with nothing to chase after. And that's where the panic sets in. They start thinking, why isn't he begging? Why isn't he still holding on? That's when they're forced to face the reality they've been avoiding. You're not waiting for them. You're not stuck in their orbit anymore. You've moved on, and it scares them. Silence tells them that you've evolved, that you've become something they can't touch. And it doesn't take a single word to do that. This silence isn't a void. It's a statement. And that's why, when you stop performing, stop explaining yourself, and let your silence speak for you, it shifts everything. They'll be left asking themselves, is he seeing someone else? Is he better off without me? Why does he seem so at peace? And that question, that's what eats at them. Because deep down, they know they can't control it anymore. They'll start to panic, because silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the absence of control, and that's your strength. Key point 2. Approval detox. Reclaim your self-worth. The truth is, most of us are raised in a world that constantly tells us we need validation from our friends, our families, our partners. We're conditioned to seek approval, and it works for a while. But when you hit that point of self-realization, when you stop seeking external validation to feel whole, you flip the script. You stop depending on someone else's perception of you to define your worth. Now, let's talk about your ex. They've seen you, heard you, maybe even felt your desperation at times. They know you cared. And in the early stages of the breakup, they likely expected you to fall apart, to reach out and beg them to return. But when you stop chasing them for approval, that's when they start questioning everything. Here's the thing about approval. When you give it away freely, people begin to take it for granted. They don't see the value in it because it's constantly there. You become predictable. You're no longer a mystery. And that's when they start pulling away, seeking new sources of validation. But when you remove your need for their approval, it completely changes the dynamic. Why? Because you stop chasing them. You stop asking for their acknowledgement. You stop needing them to tell you you're worth it. And when you do that, you put the power back in your hands. When your ex sees you moving on without them, without seeking any recognition or approval, it forces them to reconsider everything they took for granted. They've lost access to that external validation you once provided, and now they're left to wonder, what's so special about him? What did I miss? You've become an enigma, a challenge, someone they can no longer read. And that uncertainty shakes them to their core. And here's the kicker. When you stop needing them, they start needing you. Not because you're chasing them, but because you've made yourself scarce. And scarcity, it makes things valuable. Approval detox isn't just about cutting off communication with your ex. It's about reclaiming your internal compass. It's about understanding that you are enough without their input. Their validation doesn't define you anymore. You define yourself. Imagine this. Your ex spends their days wondering what you're up to, questioning your every move. Why? Because you stopped giving them the thing they wanted most, your need for them. You've detoxed from the emotional dependency, and that leaves them powerless. They'll think, is he seeing someone else? Is he doing just fine without me? And that uncertainty, that's where the panic begins. They'll want you back, not because they truly miss you, but because they can't control you anymore. They want access to that approval they once took for granted, and now they can't have it. When you stop needing their approval, you flip the power dynamic. And that's when the real shift happens. You're no longer waiting for them to validate your worth. You've already found that validation within yourself. Key point 3. The power of self-evolution. Be unrecognizable. This one's crucial. It's not just about going quiet or removing yourself from the emotional chaos of a breakup. It's about taking that space and using it to evolve into someone they never thought you could become. The power of self-evolution is what makes your ex really panic. When they see you changing, growing stronger, more confident, more focused on yourself, they realize something they didn't expect. They don't have access to the version of you they once had. Now, let's break this down. After a breakup, most people expect you to stay the same. They expect you to be emotionally hung up, waiting for them to come back, consumed by the pain of the past. This is especially true with avoidant exes. They don't want to face your growth because it forces them to acknowledge their own immaturity, lack of commitment, and the fact that they didn't value you enough in the first place. But when you transform, when you start investing in yourself, working on your physical health, your emotional resilience, your career, or your passions, it's not just noticeable, it's unmissable. Your ex begins to see you as someone they no longer recognize. The person they left behind is no longer the person they're watching from the sidelines. Instead, they're seeing a version of you that's confident, unbothered, and better off. And that's terrifying for them. The moment your ex realizes that they no longer have power over you, that's when they start spiraling. It's a harsh wake-up call, because now they see that they didn't just lose a relationship. They lost the best version of you. And they can never have access to that again unless they change. This is where the game changes. You're not just evolving physically or emotionally. You're evolving mentally. You're stepping into a higher version of yourself, and with that comes a shift in how you approach life and relationships. You stop chasing after people who didn't value you. You start respecting yourself enough to walk away from toxic patterns and embrace a new path. And when you do this, it's as if your ex is staring at a stranger, someone they no longer recognize. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about getting back at them. This is about you becoming the person you always should have been, the person they didn't deserve to begin with. And that's exactly why they'll panic. They'll ask themselves, why didn't I see this before? Why didn't I appreciate him when I had the chance? You see, it's not just the silence that gets to them. It's the self-evolution. The fact that you've taken your pain, your struggle, and used it as fuel to become someone better. Someone they can never have access to again. They're stuck in their old patterns, while you're out here creating a future that doesn't need them. And that's when they realize they didn't just lose a relationship. They lost the version of you that would have been the best thing to ever happen to them. That mental spiral, that's your leverage. Self-evolution isn't just about getting over someone, it's about getting above them. And that's where the real power lies. When they see your growth, they don't just regret losing you. They start to fear that they'll never get the chance to experience the new you again. Key point 4. The secret power of unbothered confidence. How to be irresistible. Without trying, the greatest secret to making your ex worry isn't even about what you do. It's about what you don't do anymore. And that's your unbothered confidence. Let me paint the picture for you. Your ex is out there living their life, probably telling themselves they're doing fine without you. But deep down, they still care. They still feel that sting whenever they see you moving on. And when you stop reacting, stop chasing, stop even acknowledging their existence with any emotional urgency, that's when the real shift happens. Unbothered confidence is the key to creating an energy that draws people in, not because you're desperate for their attention, but because you no longer need it. You've tapped into something much deeper. Here's the thing. Confidence is magnetic. People, especially exes, can sense when someone has evolved into a version of themselves that no longer needs validation from others. This isn't the shallow, I'm fine kind of confidence. This is the kind that comes from self-respect, the kind that is rooted in inner peace, the kind that says, I'm good whether or not you're here. So when you embody this self-assuredness, your ex can't help but wonder, what happened to him? Where's the person who was once so invested in me? And that's when they start second-guessing their decisions. They thought you were just another person they could walk away from, but now you've become untouchable. They realize they can't have you back like they thought they could, and that's when the real fear sets in. This unbothered energy is magnetic, and here's why. It forces your ex to face their own shortcomings. They'll look at you, living your life without the emotional turbulence they expected you to have, and suddenly they'll start asking themselves, why is he so calm? Why does he seem so complete? Is he seeing someone else? Why haven't I heard from him? What did I miss? You've created an emotional vacuum. You've stopped giving them the drama, the answers, and the explanations. All you've done is take your power back. And that silence, it speaks volumes. It makes them question their worth. They see you being strong, silent, and confident, completely unshaken by their absence. That's when they realize you're not waiting for them to come back. You're not stuck in the past anymore. This shift in energy is so subtle but so powerful. You're no longer chasing them, trying to win them over, or proving your worth to them. You're showing up for yourself. And that's magnetic. When you stop worrying about them, they start worrying about you. And here's where it gets good. This unbothered confidence isn't about putting on a facade. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about truly not caring, because you've learned that your value isn't dependent on someone else's validation. Your worth is innate, and when you realize that, it's impossible not to attract others, and yes, your ex included, into your orbit. How to harness this unbothered confidence? Stop explaining yourself. When you stop explaining every decision, every thought, every emotion, you signal to others that you don't need their approval to move forward. Your actions speak louder than any words. Stop seeking validation. Whether it's through social media likes, messages, or even their approval, you've stopped fishing for external validation. You no longer need anyone's confirmation to feel good about who you are. Reclaim your time. Your energy and time are valuable. When you choose to invest in yourself, rather than chasing someone who doesn't value you, you begin to radiate an undeniable aura of self-worth. Focus on self-growth. Evolve in silence. Focus on becoming the best version of yourself. And when you do this, your confidence will shine from the inside out. People won't be able to ignore it. This unbothered confidence forces your ex into a position where they realize they no longer have the upper hand. They thought they could walk away without any consequences. But now they're seeing the consequences of their actions. Because they can't have you back. They can't reach you anymore. And that thought? It haunts them. So the question is, how long will it take for them to crack? How long will it take before they realize they've lost the best thing they ever had? And when they do, it won't be because you played games, manipulated them, or tried to force their hand. It'll be because you finally understood your own worth and stopped chasing after someone who didn't deserve you in the first place. The key point 5, the silent power of moving on. When you let go, they can't hold on. One of the hardest things to do after a breakup is move on. It's not about finding someone new. It's not about filling the void with distractions or pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about fully, wholeheartedly releasing the emotional ties that bind you to someone who wasn't meant to stay. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Because the moment you let go is the moment your ex starts to realize something they never expected. They thought you would stay attached to them forever, waiting for their love, waiting for their validation, and maybe even waiting for their return. But when you let go without a single word of explanation, that's when the panic sets in. Letting go isn't just about walking away. It's about releasing any emotional grip you had on your ex. It's about not caring anymore whether they're watching your every move, wondering what you're up to, or if they even miss you at all. When you stop caring about their reactions, you gain the ultimate power, emotional freedom. And that, my friend, is when they'll start to panic. They've built up this image in their mind of you as someone who's emotionally tied to them, someone who's desperately waiting for them to come back. But when you show them that you've moved on without them, without begging for closure, without clinging to the past, they realize something disturbing. You don't need them anymore. They no longer have the control over your emotional state. This is the silent power of moving on. It's about showing them, without saying a word, that you've released them from your life. You don't need them to be whole. You don't need them to feel validated, desired, or even important. And you know what happens next? They panic. They start wondering if they made a mistake. They wonder if they missed out on something irreplaceable. They wonder if they'll ever get another shot. And all of this mental turmoil happens without you lifting a finger. When you move on in silence, it forces them to confront their own feelings of regret and loss. They'll start asking themselves, what if I let go of the one person who truly understood me? What if I was wrong about everything? Is he really moving on? Is he better off without me? And that's when they spiral. That's when they feel the weight of their decisions. And it's all because you stopped playing the game. You stopped running after them, stopped reaching out, and stopped holding on to the fantasy of what could have been. You let go. Letting go isn't about forcing yourself to move on. It's about realizing that you deserve better. It's about letting go of the idea that someone else's validation or love defines your worth. When you reach that point, the emotional attachment disappears, and with it, your ex's hold on you fades into oblivion. This doesn't mean you're cold or that you've stopped caring. It simply means you've stopped depending on someone else's presence to complete your life. You're enough on your own, and that's the key to creating the power dynamic where your ex is the one left feeling out of control. They'll want you back, not because they love you more, but because they want to regain the control they once had. They want access to your heart again, but when you've truly let go, it's like trying to catch the wind. You're no longer waiting for them to come around. You've moved on, and they can't hold on to you anymore. And here's the best part. They'll never be able to take that emotional freedom away from you. Because when you learn to truly let go, you hold the one thing no one can ever take from you: your own peace, your own emotional independence. And that's exactly what will make them worry. So while they're busy wondering whether they can ever get you back, you'll be focused on your growth. You'll be focused on the fact that you're no longer defined by your past, by them, or by the relationship. You're focused on creating a future that doesn't need anyone to validate it. And that's where the power lies. Key point 6. The ghost of regret. What happens when they realize you're gone for good? Now, this is where the real psychological warfare begins, when your ex realizes that you're never coming back. Not just because they moved on, not because they got distracted by someone new, but because they've lost the access to you they once had. This is a hard pill to swallow for anyone, especially someone who's avoidant. They've been able to keep their distance with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, thinking you would always be there. And as long as they thought they could keep you in their orbit, they never had to truly face the consequences of their actions. But when you finally detach completely, when you stop chasing, stop caring, and stop hoping, they're forced to confront something they never expected: regret. Regret is a powerful emotion, and for your ex it's like a slow burn. It creeps up on them subtly at first. They may start with small thoughts like, "Is he seeing someone else?" or "I wonder what he's up to now." But as time goes on, those thoughts grow. The questions start to take over. Why didn't I see his worth? Why didn't I appreciate him when I had the chance? And that's when the ghost of regret haunts them. They begin to realize that they've lost more than just a relationship. They've lost someone who was a constant, someone who was emotionally available, who cared deeply, who gave them a kind of support and love they might never find again. They realize they've let someone go who might have been their best chance at true connection. When you stop showing up for them, when they realize that you won't be the one to answer their calls or send that text, they start to panic. Because now they've got nothing. No more hope that you'll be there to rescue the situation. No more safety net. Here's where the psychology kicks in. They didn't fear losing you. They feared you realizing your worth. They feared you seeing beyond the relationship, seeing beyond them, and stepping into a version of yourself that didn't need them to feel complete. They feared you realizing that you deserve more than someone who would treat you like a backup. And when you move on without them, without so much as an explanation, that's when it hits hardest. They thought they could play the "I'm fine" card, that they could move on and forget. But when they see you thriving without them, it hits them in a place they didn't expect. They start regretting that they didn't invest more, didn't put in the effort, didn't value you the way they should have. And that regret is like a ticking time bomb. It eats at them from the inside out. They'll start questioning, what if I made a mistake? What if I let go of the person I needed the most? Is he really better off without me? Why didn't I fight for him? That's when the panic truly sets in. They realize that not only do they miss you, but that they'll never get you back. And the kicker? They can't fix it. There's nothing they can do to get back to the version of you they took for granted. The person who was always there, always emotionally invested. That person is gone. And in their place is someone who doesn't need them anymore. Someone who has moved on and doesn't look back. They thought you'd always be waiting, but now you've become a distant memory. A ghost in their past they can never resurrect. And guess what? That feeling of regret? It's something they'll carry with them, forever wondering if they could have done things differently. But here's the truth. It's too late. You've moved on. And while they're busy trying to figure out how to win you back, you're already creating a future where they don't have a place. You've become the one that got away. And to them, you're no longer just a person. You're an unreachable memory. And that's what haunts them most. Key point 7. The final shift. How to be unforgettable without lifting a finger. Here's the final move that will leave your ex in a state of constant wonder, filled with doubt, regret, and fear. It's simple, yet incredibly powerful. It's all about being unforgettable. This doesn't require any grand gestures or complex plans. It doesn't require games, manipulation, or revenge. It doesn't even require words. What it requires is consistency. Consistency in your growth, your peace, and your ability to let go of what doesn't serve you. The truth is, most people will forget you when you're gone. They'll move on, get distracted, and forget the impact you made in their life. But when you embody a certain level of self-assurance, independence, and self-worth, you become unforgettable. Your ex won't forget you because you were the loudest or the most dramatic. They won't forget you because you begged them to stay or tried to keep them in your life. They'll remember you because you became someone they could never have again. You became the person they thought they could walk away from without consequence, and now they can't shake the idea that they'll never find anyone like you again. So, how do you become unforgettable? It starts with showing them that your life is bigger than just them. Your journey is about your growth, your peace, your evolution, and it doesn't revolve around their presence. It's about shifting the focus from chasing to being. When you start investing in yourself in every way imaginable, physically, emotionally, mentally, you create a version of yourself that's impossible to replicate. That version of you is an attraction force in itself. It's magnetic because it's grounded, it's confident, and it's emotionally independent. But here's the kicker. While you're evolving, becoming the best version of yourself, your ex is watching. They might pretend they don't care. They might pretend they've moved on. But deep down, they're seeing a version of you they never expected. And that's when the mental spiral begins. They'll wonder, who is he becoming? How did he get so strong? Why does he seem so at peace? Did he really move on? Is he with someone else now? Has he completely forgotten about me? And this is the mental trap they get stuck in. They'll keep replaying these questions over and over, wondering how they could have let go of someone who is now better without them. And every time they see you thrive, whether it's through your actions, your confidence, or your growth, It reminds them that they can never go back. You're no longer an option for them. You're a memory they can never touch again. This shift is powerful because it makes them realize that the one person they thought they could let go of easily is the one person who has moved on without even looking back. Becoming unforgettable doesn't require you to chase after them or prove anything. It just requires you to live your best life, independently, unapologetically, and confidently. When you embrace your own worth and move forward without needing their approval, you shift the power dynamic. You stop being a past chapter in their life. You become a living, breathing reminder of what they lost. And the longer you keep living this version of yourself, the more consistent you are in your growth, the more you'll haunt them. Not because you're actively trying to hurt them, but because your evolution becomes a symbol of everything they can't have. This is the secret, to be so unshakable, so unforgettable, that your absence becomes the greatest reminder of all. And when they start spiraling, questioning everything, wondering if they'll ever find someone like you again, that's your victory. You've made it clear that you're not just another chapter in their life. You're the one that got away, and they'll never forget you. A key point 8. The ultimate freedom. When you stop chasing, you become the prize. This is the final, most powerful truth that will leave your ex in a state of constant turmoil. When you stop chasing, you become the prize. This shift in mindset is everything. Most of us are conditioned to think that love and connection require chasing, especially after a breakup. We believe that if we want someone back, we have to convince them, remind them of what they're missing, or prove to them how much we still care. But what if I told you that chasing is the very thing that keeps you from getting what you want? What if the key to regaining your power is in the one thing most people are afraid to do? Stop chasing. Here's the truth. When you stop chasing your ex, when you stop making them your focal point, when you stop putting their needs, their feelings, and their approval above your own, you shift the dynamic. You stop being the one who's emotionally dependent. You stop being the one who needs validation. And that, my friend, is when you become the prize. Imagine this. You're no longer sitting by the phone waiting for their call. You're no longer scrolling through their social media, checking if they're thinking about you. You're not even wondering if they'll reach out or if they're regretting their decision. No. You've stepped into your own life, focused on your own growth and your own journey. And here's the kicker. When you do this, you become irresistible. Why? Because when you stop chasing, you show that you've taken control of your own emotional state. You've stopped handing over your power, and anyone, especially your ex, can't help but notice that. It makes you a mystery. It makes you someone who is independent, strong, and emotionally self-sufficient. You're no longer a chaser. You're someone who has already moved on and isn't sitting around waiting for someone to decide your worth. Here's where the psychology of it comes in. Your ex thought they could leave you behind, walk away, and you'd always be available to them. They thought that if they ignored you long enough, you'd eventually cave and come running back. But when you don't chase, when you no longer show desperation or neediness, it completely changes the game. They start to realize that you don't need them anymore. And that's when the panic sets in. You see, the chase isn't just about getting someone to come back. It's about power. And when you stop chasing, you take back all that power. You shift the dynamic from them having power over you to you having power over your own life. and that makes you incredibly attractive. Now, they're the ones chasing, whether they admit it or not, because they'll start to wonder, is he really over me? Why hasn't he contacted me? Is he moving on without me? They start to realize they may have underestimated you, and that realization is the most powerful thing you can make them experience. By simply not chasing them, you become the prize. And the moment you become the prize is the moment you take the power back. No more begging, no more wondering, no more trying to force something that isn't there. Instead, you stand firm in your value. You become the person who isn't waiting for them to validate you. You are already enough. So here's the ultimate freedom. You are not defined by your ex's actions or decisions anymore. You no longer need their approval, their attention, or their affection to feel whole. You've learned to stand on your own. And the beauty of that is, when you stop chasing, you become a version of yourself that is so compelling, so magnetic, that they'll wonder why they ever let you go in the first place. And when they start to worry about you, when they start chasing after you because they've realized they've lost their grip on you, that's when the shift is complete. You've become the one who got away. And to them, you'll always be the one they can never fully have again. Key point 9. The shift in their perception. Why they'll always be looking back. This is the part that hits them the hardest, the moment they realize they let you go, but they'll never really lose you. They'll always be looking back. You see, when you stop chasing, stop reacting, and stop trying to force things to work, it causes a psychological shift in their mind. They went into the relationship thinking they had control over the situation, that if they ever wanted to come back, you'd be there, waiting. But the moment you stop playing that game, they're faced with an uncomfortable truth. They don't have control anymore. And it drives them crazy. The longer you go without reaching out, the more you focus on your own life, the more you show that you're moving on without them. The more they'll wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're not begging for their attention. You've shifted the balance from them controlling your emotions to you controlling your own fate. And that's a dangerous place for them to be. Here's why. As they watch you move on, becoming stronger, happier, more confident, they can't help but look back. They start to question their decision. They start wondering, why didn't I appreciate him more? What if I made a mistake letting him go? Is he really doing better without me? Who's he spending time with? Is he seeing someone else? The more you let go, the more they realize they can't come back to where they were with you. They start to see you as someone out of their reach, a person who was once deeply available, but is now untouchable. They start questioning their worth, their choices, and everything they thought they knew about you. This is the part where you become unforgettable. They don't forget someone who's evolved. They don't forget someone who's stepped into their power. They don't forget the person they thought would always be there for them, only to realize that you've moved on in ways they never expected. And while they may continue with their lives, there will always be a part of them that looks back, wondering if they'll ever find someone like you again. This shift in their perception happens in silence. It's the silence of not chasing, of not looking back, of not needing them anymore. And that's the part that will haunt them the most. Because now they've realized you don't need them to be whole. You don't need them to feel validated, loved, or important. You've taken your power back. And that's something they will never forget. As much as they might try to move forward, as much as they might tell themselves they're over it, you'll still be in the back of their mind. Your absence becomes your presence, and your power over them grows stronger every day. They'll wonder, what if I let go of the best thing I ever had? Why can't I stop thinking about him? Is he better off without me? Does he even care? The longer you stay silent and continue evolving, the more they'll be forced to confront the idea that they might never get you back. You've become the one they'll always look back on and wonder, what if? And that's when the psychological weight really hits. When they realize they can't have you again, when they know they missed their chance and they can't go back, they'll keep looking back, and you'll remain etched in their memory. Forever. That's your power. Key point 10. The ultimate truth. You don't need them to be whole. This is the final, most liberating truth. It's the one that will set you free, and it's the one that will haunt your ex the most. The moment you realize it, everything changes. You don't need them to be whole. This truth is not just about your ex. It's about you. It's about your worth, your value, and your ability to stand on your own without relying on someone else to define you. It's the realization that you are complete, just as you are. When your ex sees this transformation, when they realize that you've stopped seeking validation, stopped chasing after them, and stopped waiting for their approval, it sends a shockwave through their mind. Because they know deep down that they can't come back to a version of you who no longer needs them. This is where the ultimate shift happens. When you stop needing someone, you become untouchable. Not because you're rejecting them, but because you've rejected the notion that your happiness, your self-worth, and your fulfillment depend on them. And that's terrifying. Your ex might have left you thinking they could come back whenever they wanted. They thought they could move on, leave you behind, and you'd always be there, waiting in the wings, ready to pick up where things left off. But when you stop needing them to feel validated, when you stop seeking closure, stop trying to understand their actions, and stop emotionally investing in someone who isn't investing in you, that's when everything shifts. This is when they realize they've lost access to you, not just physically, but emotionally. And that realization hits harder than anything they could have ever anticipated. Because now, they understand that you don't need them anymore. You've become someone who can stand on their own, who doesn't depend on anyone for emotional support or validation. The power of this truth is in its simplicity. When you stop needing them, you regain your own sense of control. You regain the power to choose your own path, to focus on your own growth, and to create a future that doesn't include them, unless they choose to rise to your level. This isn't about playing games or manipulating them into chasing you. It's about genuine self-realization. It's about understanding that your life is not defined by anyone's presence or absence. You are whole, just as you are. And the moment they realize that, when they see you living your life without them, not missing a beat, not looking back, they'll be left in a state of confusion, panic, and regret. Because they thought they could walk away from you, but what they didn't count on was your strength in walking away from them. They'll wonder, how did he move on so easily? What happened to the person who once needed me? Why can't I shake the feeling that I lost something irreplaceable? This is the ultimate freedom. When you realize that your happiness, peace, and fulfillment come from within, and not from someone else's approval, love, or validation, you are unstoppable. And when your ex realizes that they're no longer the center of your universe, that's when the true panic sets in. They'll forever question their decision. And in the end, they'll be haunted by the knowledge that they let go of the one person who has moved on in a way they could never have predicted. In the end, your silence, your growth, and your unshakable belief in yourself will be the things they'll never forget. Because you became everything they could never have again, someone who no longer needed them to be whole. The final word: you've already won. And there it is, the truth that will change the way you approach every breakup, every relationship, and your own sense of self-worth moving forward. The real power isn't in begging, chasing, or proving anything to anyone. It's in your ability to let go, to evolve in silence, and to rise without needing anyone's validation. You've already won. Not because you've played games or manipulated anyone, but because you've chosen to take control of your own life, your own emotions, and your own happiness. You've realized that you are enough, with or without anyone in your life. And that is the ultimate power. Your ex may never admit it, but deep down, they'll know that the person they left behind isn't the same one you are now. You're no longer the one they can manipulate, control, or rely on. You've become a version of yourself that doesn't need them to be whole. So, if you're still with me, and you're ready to own this journey, to rise from the ashes and become someone they'll never forget, then take this next step. Like this video if you're ready to let go of the past and move forward in your power. Subscribe to the channel for more content on reclaiming your life, your worth, and your peace of mind. And share this with someone who needs to hear that their silence is their strength. Because this isn't just a video, it's a movement. A movement towards self-evolution, freedom, and becoming the best version of yourself. Drop this in the comments as your declaration: I'm the power they can't reach. Because at the end of the day, you don't need anyone's approval. You've got all the power you need within you. And remember, they thought you'd crumble, but you just leveled up. Let's keep moving forward. You've got this. See you in the next